Welcome to Rise Untold, where the stories behind the spotlight come alive to eye in the glittering haze of 1980s television. One name could stop time. Heather Thomas. Golden hair, radiant smile, and a presence that lit up every screen she touched. She wasn't just an actress. She was the poster that a dream for millions and a face that defined a generation. But fame, as always, has its price. And some disappear not because they fall, but because surviving it all requires stepping away. Now, decades later, at 67, Heather Thomas appeared in public, and the world gasped. Is that really her? The cameras flashed. The internet lit up. People weren't just shocked. They were stunned, confused, some even cruel. But behind that moment is a story far deeper than the surface. This isn't just a tale of how someone looks. This is about who they became when the spotlight faded. Born in Greenwich, Connecticut, Heather Thomas didn't just want to be seen. She wanted to be heard. By the time she starred in The Fall Guy in 1981, opposite Lee Majors, she wasn't just another pretty face. She was bold, sharp, and unforgettable. Playing Jody Banks, she did her own stunts, rocked primetime TV, and became one of the most iconic women of that decade. But fame didn't come gently. Behind the makeup and smiles, there was pain. Addiction crept in. So did the pressure to look perfect, to be perfect. It be why 1991, she walked away to a dramatic exit. No farewell tour, just silence. While tabloids chased her and fans wondered where she went, Heather was building a different life, a real one. She became a writer, a mother, a fierce advocate for political reform and women's rights. She spoke at rallies. She helped fund campaigns. She used her voice in rooms far from Hollywood sound stages. But we don't like when stars disappear. And we really don't like when they age. When Heather appeared recently, natural, unfiltered, and 67. The reaction was swift. Some fans were kind. Others weren't. She looks so different, one tweet said. Another wrote, is that really her? But maybe the better question is, why are we still surprised that people age? Why do we expect eternal youth from women who gave us their entire prime? Heather Thomas didn't owe anyone a performance that day. She wasn't acting. She was simply being. And maybe that's the bravest role of all. To show up without a mask, without a filter. To stand in the world exactly as you are. Because here's the truth. That 80s bombshell, she still exists, but she's just no longer performing for our gaze. She's fighting for things that mattered. She's raising her voice where it counts. She's living a life on her terms, not ours. And that, in the end, is more powerful than any role she ever played. So if you see a photo and think, is that really her? Know this. Yes, it's the woman who walked away from the machine and found herself outside of it. It's the actress who turned her back on fame and chose something far more radical in Hollywood. Truth. She didn't chase the next spotlight. She didn't cling to the next big role. She chose to vanish, not because she failed, but because she had the courage to outgrow the image the world tried to freeze her inside. This is Heather Thomas, not the one on posters, not the airbrushed 8x10 from a casting agency, but the woman who stared down the pressure of being perfect and chose peace. That it's easy to applaud someone when they're young and glowing and desirable. But what about when they're older? When time writes its story across their face? When the glow softens and the spotlight fades? What then? Will we still listen? Will we still care? Because Heather Thomas never stopped being valuable. She just stopped being visible. She traded camera flashes for handwritten chapters, red carpets for sidewalks with her daughter. She raised a family. She wrote screenplays. She stood up for political causes that no Hollywood agent could monetize. She lived with intention, even when the world wasn't watching. Because that's who she really was all along. A fighter, not for fame, but for herself, her voice, her boundaries, her soul. And when she appeared again at 67, silver strands in her hair, softer lines on her skin, it wasn't a fall from grace. It was grace, finally standing on its own. Yes, some fans were shocked. Yes, the whispers came. She looks different, they said, but why wouldn't she? She lived, she aged. She survived. She paid the toll that time demands from all of us, but she paid it with dignity. And in that rare appearance, in that candid, unfiltered moment, she gave us something far more valuable than beauty. She gave us Truth. Truth about what it means to step out of the illusion. To grow older not in shame, but in strength. To no longer perform for the audience, but to finally live for yourself. And maybe we didn't recognize her at first because we weren't looking closely enough, because the real her was never in the makeup, or the dresses, or the roles written by someone else. It was always in the fire behind her eyes, the quiet conviction behind her smile, the strength to walk away when others would have stayed just to be seen. Heather Thomas didn't fade. She rose, inwardly, deeply, and on her own terms. She became a mother, the kind who showed up, not on magazine covers, but at school plays and family dinners. She became a writer, the kind who told stories not for ratings, but for truth. She became a citizen of the world, standing in protest lines, advocating for causes bigger than herself. She chose a life where she didn't have to be applauded to feel worthy, where applause didn't define her, where her mirror didn't ask for perfection, just honesty. And isn't that what we're all really searching for? To be seen, truly seen, not just when we're young and flawless, but when we're real, worn, weathered, whole. Heather Thomas at 67 is not unrecognizable. She is finally recognizable, because for the first time, she's not hiding behind the mask of expectation, but she's standing in the light of everything she is, wrinkles, wisdom, and all. She is not just the bombshell we remember. She is the woman we all hope to become, unapologetic, unfiltered, unshaken. This is not the end of her story. It's the most powerful chapter yet, the one she wrote herself. So, the next time you see a photo, and the caption reads, "Is that really her?" Smile, because YES.IT is that it's the girl from the Fall Guy, now grown into a force even greater than her fame. It's the fighter who left Hollywood before it could devour her soul. That it's the mother who chose her child over movie sets. It's the advocate who found her voice off screen and used it where it mattered. It's the writer who picked up a pen when the script stopped coming. That it's the woman who stopped trying to look 27 because she already lived it. And now she gets to live for real. This is Heather Thomas at 67. And this is Rise Untold. Because if she could survive the noise, the pressure, the cameras, the silence, the years of being remembered only for how she looked at 25, and still rise, after the cameras stopped flashing, after the scripts stopped arriving, after the world turned its gaze to the next face, the next name, the next rising star, could she still stand tall? Even when the very industry that once praised her youth now ignored her age, when the same eyes that once adored her beauty now judged her for daring to grow older, still show up with grace, when her appearance no longer fit their idea of glamour, when fans whispered, "Is that really her?" As if age were a failure instead of a triumph, still walk into a room, head high, no apologies, just honesty, because that takes courage. Most never understand that to be seen not as who you were, but as who you truly are. And through all of that, she didn't shrink, she didn't break, she rose, quietly, powerfully, beautifully. So maybe that's what this story is really about, not fame, not aging, but courage. And if she could survive the silence, endure the change, stand in her truth, and still rise, then maybe, just maybe, so can you.